Okay, we're back. We are on tutorial number 5. I know I promised some Warhammer stuff to continue on the logo stuff that I was working on last time. We're actually going to skip that. We'll get back to it in the next one. But I want to go over spline object creation, kind of some cool stuff you can do with it. Um, Specifically compound objects and what that means for you and the difference between maybe a poly object and a spline based object, and how in the end it's basically the same thing. The only thing is how you got there that makes any difference, and it really doesn't matter in the end. um, One is just another way to create something. It's just as viable as the other way. So uh, yeah, let's just get into the software. Okay, so boom, desktop, here we go. So what do we got here? We got two objects that look identical, right? We've got this guy and this guy, but there is a difference. And the difference, if we go into the modify panel, is they are named differently and they have different features. Okay, so this one is just a cylinder. So that is just a poly primitive that I've created, a cylinder. It looks like it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 height, so 6 height segments there. And then we've got this one, but instead of it saying cylinder, it says loft, and it looks like it's got some stuff here. Shape, path, what's all that about? Okay, so we can actually, I can give you a little shortcut here, what that's about. This is a loft, okay? We create two objects. We create a path and a shape, okay? So essentially, all you're doing here is you're creating a path, and then you're lofting this shape up the path. Okay, now it doesn't look like that right this second, because these are the basis of this guy, and this guy is essentially that guy. We could turn this loft into a poly object, so we could just hit editable poly here, and like we did the other day, we can kind of edit the vertices, right? We could just move these around, and start modeling. Like let's say this is what we want. We're great at 3D modeling. But I can't do that with this one, right? Let's get out of editable poly here. Can't do it with this one yet, can I? Oh, but I can. I can just hit editable poly, right? And now I can do the same stupid crap to this. It's just, how did we get there? We got there two separate ways with different with basically just different functions to get the same outcome. Okay, so we're going to actually do this. I'm going to show you how to do it. So up at the top here, there is a reset button. It's an important feature. If you've been working in 3D Studio Max, you've got materials, you've got windows open, or just things are rearranged, and you don't want that. I have the home grid missing. I've moved some panels around. If you want to go back to normal, press a reset button. Obviously, save your project, but it asks you, do you really want to reset? Yes, I do. So it's going to bring me back to the home grid and this starting location. Okay, so let's make what we made. Let's just make that polygon object. So let's go to the creation panel. Let's go to cylinder, and let's create a cylinder. Let's turn on our snapping tool. So we'll go in the beginning, and then we'll just, let's go like that, and let's go up like that. Is that the same size cylinder? Nope, let's go up a little higher. I had the radius 10 and the height was 30, if I remember. So boom. All right, this is our sweet pink basic cylinder. Under default shading, let's switch it to wireframe or edged faces. Sorry about that. And I don't like this pink. It's a little weird. It's a little creepy. So we're gonna go with green. Green's cool. There we go. Okay, so let's make a loft version of this. Okay, so what do we have in that other video? We needed a shape and we needed a path. So let's move this over 10 more units here. Oh, there we go. Let's create this in the other panel. Okay, or in the other window. So go to your 4-point view. This is Alt W. Again, these are my shortcuts. The button for it is down here. Alt W will take you into whichever window you have focused. Okay, so let's go to this view here, the bottom left one, the left, yeah, let's go to the left view, whatever. Doesn't matter. We can do the front. It's a line. It doesn't matter. So let's go into your basic objects. Let's go to splines here. or shapes. Ooh, it's shapes. Jeez, I should know that. Anyways, let's pick line. Have your snapping tool on. Don't click and drag. Okay, so let's click right here. And then you got this going. And then let's drop it right there. And then right click to end the function. Okay. Now let's get back into our three-dimensional view, not just the orthographic view. And then let's jump into this panel. Okay, so we have our path. Now we need our shape. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's just create a circle. I mean, we can create any of these shapes, but let's start with a circle. And let's create a circle with a radius of 10. So just whatever, it's good enough. We can change it in the edit panel, or the modify panel. It's right here. It's the modify panel. And then, so right here it says radius. So let's change that to 10. So, I typed that into my keyboard. You got your own. Okay, so now, where do we find this loft tool? Okay, we can do either the shape or the path. Let's just pick the path. And then in your creation panel, let's go to, what is this guy? This is geometry. And let's go down to compound objects. And over here is loft. Now, adding loft to this line is kind of like adding a modifier, but it's still a primitive. It's still a base object, so you don't have it under the modify panel. If I go back over here, you still just have a line. So a compound object is just your baser creation tools. So again, we didn't add the modifier. We just pressed the button. It didn't do anything. So click loft here. You're going to get these options, your creation method. You've got get path. We've already got the path. That's what we have selected. We have get shape. That's what we need to pick. So we're going to press get shape, and we're going to use this circle. All right, notice how this changes. Got that little icon. That means that's selected. Click that guy, and bam. Look at that. We have cylinder. Oh, but it doesn't match, does it? Okay, well, we can fix that. We can change one to the other. So we could just change our cylinder over here, like we had in the other one. I think I just did that to 24, I believe. Or in our panel here, we should be able to change how many. Actually, it might be in the we can move this over and we'll still have those two options, or these two objects here. We should still be able to change this. So this says steps 6. If we drop this down, no, turn off optimize. Adaptive? No, is it sides? Ah, it must be sides. There we go. I guess it's not sides. Which one was it? All right, let's delete this guy. Let's do it again. So let's hit our steps. Let's just create at the same sides. So sides, whatever. All right, so let's do this loft again. And then we're going to go like this. We're going to get our shape. And how many sides do we have? We have 24. Well, I don't love that. I can't remember exactly how to cut down on the amount of sides. Because that is 24, because that's 6 for 4 sides. Interesting. Interesting. I guess I didn't think about that. Shape steps? Is that what I want? No. Oh, that is what I want. There we go. Okay, that's where it was. My bad. You can do the exact same thing. I just was hiding in there. I don't use this feature all the time. What I do use lines for is creating tubular objects, but I don't loft very often because you can do the same feature with a line. I'm going to show you how to do that exact same thing in a minute here. Okay, so we've got the same functionality as we have here. We can create as many height segments or as few height segments as we'd like. That is the skin parameters. And you can drop in as many, your height segments and your, what do they call them in your primitive here? Your height segments and your sides. So you can change that as much as you want in this panel. But there is a cool feature that is actually a pain to do when you have height segments like this. Let's say I want to turn my poly object into something like a horn or like a Christmas tree, right? So my poly object is created a little bit different than my loft object here. So what I could do is I could add an editable poly, and I could start shrinking these down, right? I could just scale each set of these down. And this might suck. It's kind of a long way around. In fact, if I want to make a Christmas tree or something, I don't even need this many height segments, right? I could just kind of, or if I wanted to make like a cone, right, or a horn, I don't really need this many height segments. I could just get rid of this editable poly. I could cut down on the height segments. Now add the editable poly. Grab this guy and then scale this down, right? Now this is a crappy way to do it, but I'm about to bring up a point here. So that's how you do it with a poly object, if you're really trying to make a crappy cone like that or a horn. But the cool thing about this object is it was created by these two objects, right? So let's zoom in on these two objects here. What can I do? Well, let's say I want to make a horn similar to this, but maybe I want to add a curve to it or something like that. Well, there is a nice taper or scale function to a loft object. So right here, press this button and this graph is going to come up. Now the graph's not going to really make a ton of sense right away. I didn't actually use it right away. These buttons down here change how you can visualize this. But let me just show you what it does real quick. So I'm going to grab this end one. This is think about this as your line here, but it's creation. So open this back up. Let's grab this end vertex or vertice and drag it. And what's going to happen here? Ooh, what happened there? Well, this loft is getting scaled down at the top. Okay, now what if we do that to the other side? Well, same thing's going to happen. Or what if we bring it up real high, right? So we essentially did the same thing without needing to scale. So we're working on what says deformations. And there are a few other ones here, and I'll let you mess with that. But I'm going to show you what's cool about lofting compound objects here, okay? So I've already got my cone. Let's say this is exactly what I want, but I'm like, oh man, maybe I really wanted this cone to curve, Well, how can I do that now? Well, I could probably, maybe, if I add an editable spline, or just, I can mess with the line here. I don't need to add an editable spline. Let's change how this curve works. So there are different handles. Just like in Adobe Illustrator, you get different handles to mess with. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can make sure you can see these. But let's first add in, let's click right in the middle here. I'm going with a segment, and then there's a divide button. And now what the divide button is going to do is it's going to add a vertice halfway through the middle. So if I click right here, now I got another vertice. Let's pull this vertice out here. Let's turn off our snapping tool up top. These are your snapping tools. The first two are the most valuable. This is your move snapping, and this is rotational snapping. So we're snapping to the grid. That's the default. Oops, I think I right-clicked the wrong one. Oh, no, I right-clicked the right one. So this is your, I just have grid points and vertex on usually. And then my other snapping is 5% or 5 degrees. I leave that as default. But when these are on, they will snap to see how my mouse has that X right there? It's kind of the cross. That means the snapping tool is on. And it means every time I move it, it's going to snap to that segment, the vertice or so anyways, I'm just turning that off. We can go over that some other time. So anyways, those are off. Let's drag this here and look what's happening to my model over here. Okay, it's not working perfect, is it? No, it's not. Because this needs a curve, right? Horns don't look like that. That's not good. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on this guy here. Zoom in a little bit, zoom out, just so we can see both of them at the same time. Now, let's right click, and you're going to get options for 4 different handles: Bezier corner, Bezier corner, Bezier corner, and smooth. So first we're going to do Bezier. Okay. Now as you can see, these green handles came up. So now I'm kind of I can move this, but I want to move the handles, right? So let's click here. Now there are dimensions on this. I kind of got to clarify. There are dimensions on my move gizmo. This selection tool is called a gizmo. Okay, it can move in 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z, but then it can also hold on to the 2 dimensions at the same time. So if I click here, see how the box highlights? That's going to give me just Z and Y. If it's between red and blue, that's going to give me Z and X, and this other one is going to give me Y and X. So here, I want to go with this Z and X. I'm going to click that once. So it's going to lock my next move into, if I just click right here, it's going to lock my next move into that axis. So I'm clicking that so I can click these, and then look how this modifies that shape, right? It's starting to look a little bit better. It's starting to look like it could be like a cartoon horn of sorts, right? Now, what if we go the other dimension? Well, we can't right now because, like I said, we're locked into these 2 dimensions until I click here. And then let's turn these dimensions and see what happens there, right? Ooh, now we got kind of an S shape, it looks like here. So now we got kind of a chubby, weird looking horn. Okay, so that is not it, right? I mean, there's so much more you can do with this loft tool. What we could do is we could lengthen it out. We could do all sorts of stuff. I'm actually going to undo that last segment move, and I'm going to play with this guy. So let's move this up here. Let's make the horn even bigger. Let me pull it out like that. And then let's kind of hook it like this. Yeah, that looks nice. And then, since we got this object here, this is independent of these. Okay, now let's do something cool. Let's modify the shape instead of the path. Okay, so let's add. So we just created a circle. We created this line, so it came with the edit spline kind of baked into it. But for this one, where we just used a base shape spline primitive, we need to add an editable spline. Or, since it's a base object, you can right click and convert to editable spline. I enjoy, for non-destructive editing, use that line, tell your friends. Always add an editable spline. You're going to get rid of the stack over here, and it's always nice to go back to the stack. Okay, so let's check out our shape here. Okay, so let's go to spline, and let's do one of these. Let's select this edge and divide, and the one across from it. Actually, let's do them at the same time. And let's hit divide, and then let's go with some other, let's go to vertex here, and let's divide it one more time. Just making this up as I go. I got nothing. I got an idea of what I want to do. So let's do this guy here, and let's divide one more time. And then let's move these guys up. Oops, let's go to vertex mode. I think this is 1, 2, and 3 should get you between those 3 selections. It might be shift, but like I said, I don't use the shortcuts. Let's do this. Oh, why isn't it updating my pen? Oh, because I got the wrong side. So that would have been cool if it was on the right side. Okay. So I was going to say, that should be updating correctly. So that was that side. So I think we need to undo. So what you can do is, if you were blasting through this and you've got so many undos, you don't know where you are, just right click the undo here, and you have a whole list of things that you were that you could undo. So let's go back down here where we divided segments and undo, and those are gone. All right, so let's do that again. Let's do it to this side because we must have rotated in there. So let's divide this guy, and then let's divide these guys. And now, let's try that again. Let's move these up. And let's see if we got the right side that I wanted to work on. That's the side I wanted. I wanted to see that side. I just kind of wanted to put a weird shape in there. See what it would do. And now let's change the handles. So let's select this guy and let's do Bezier corner. And let's do Bezier corner. And now let's move this side up. So we're going to, same thing. If you click this once, this axis, it's going to lock that handle into that axis. So pull that up. Now let's do the same thing to the other side. Lock this, drag this one up. And now let's kind of maybe, yeah, let's get rid of these guys. We can just delete that. We can delete that. Maybe let's pull this down a little bit. And now we got this weird cut in the horn there. Kind of looks a little evil. I like it. But this would have taken so much more time. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend we want to do this with our poly object, right? So let's get out of this edit mode. By the way, the other handles, just to clarify, the other vertex mode kind of handle options here. You have corner and smooth. Smooth just kind of smooths between. There's no great rhyme or reason. It kind of sucks. And then there is corner, and corner is just a sharp corner. Comes to a point. So now it's totally weird, right? It's not symmetrical. It's not symmetrical. It's not good looking. It's just a mess. So I like you to mess with these handles, right? So this one, a Bezier handle, is locked together. So both sides are going to move together. And if we click and drag, sorry about that, my hand's a little sketchy. They're going to move together. But the Bezier corner is a mix, right? So this one, you get two separate handles that go different directions. This one goes that way, that one goes that way. And then you can see it's updating down here. So if you could see that right there. And see how it's changing based on it. And then you can see the handles in there. It's kind of nice. You kind of know what you're doing there. Okay, so anyways, let's go back to my cone that's made out of a poly object. And let's pretend we want to make this same shape. How the hell am I going to make that shape? I'm not. It's going to take me forever. That's the point. Is that there are some objects that are just better to make using lofted objects. You think to yourself, okay, how am I going to make the demon horn on this character I'm modeling or something? And you're like, well, I could just poly model it. Or, oh, I could use that loft feature. I could maybe cut down the amount of sides like that. Or the height segments. I mean, obviously you want to up these so it looks a little bit better. That's too many. That's too many. This is too many also. But anyways, or, I mean, you could start with this object, right? So how would I even start doing that? I guess, I probably would add some height segments. I mean, I could delete the edit poly, maybe add some height segments. I don't know. I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even, this is a complex object. So, this is me pretending like this would be an easy thing to do, but it's not. Oops. I definitely don't want to do that. Scale this down a bunch. I don't know. Move it somewhere. And do one of these. Maybe move it over there and then grab this guy and then, I don't know, chamfer a bunch. And it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Okay. So we could chamfer the hell out of this and maybe add some segments. And then maybe even make it uniform and hope. But the point is, you're not gonna get anywhere near that. It's a lot of work. So things like horns or things that taper to a point, they just have. And again, you can chop this up, change it drastically, based on this creation tool. You could add some twist if you want. Let's see what that does. There's just features to monkey with here, right? So that's twisting. Let's twist some more. Look at that. How far can we twist? How many twists could we give it? I suppose you could give it as many twists as you have height segments, but it starts to look a little weird, right? Yeah, I don't know about that. One more thing. Okay, so so again, that's lofting, shape, and a path. We're gonna reset one more time. I'm gonna show you something that's nice. So again, your reset button up here, don't worry about that stuff. I could save this stuff, but no need. Reset, yes. Okay, I am gonna make an object that looks like I lofted, but I didn't. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let's pretend we're hanging an electrical cord. Okay, so, ooh, what could I do? I should loft that, right? It's like a tube. Sure, of course you should. So let's make the line first. So let's just pretend that we've got a ceiling up here. Go to your left side. Let's just embiggen this. There, oops. Let's go to this left one. Let's embiggen that. Okay, let's pretend there's like a ceiling. We can make an object, but this is just for an example. Okay, so we're going to start here. Let's pretend it bellows down, and then maybe it goes up here. And then we're going to do it again, maybe not so high. And then we'll do it again. You know, it's kind of like hanging from a point, right? And then maybe this one super hangs, right? And then it just goes right back there. Okay, so let's say, well, I should make a circle so I can loft this, right? Like I can just drop a circle there, and here we go. I'm just click this guy and compound paths. Or compound, yeah, sorry, wrong panel there. Let's go to compound objects, and then we'll loft, and then we'll get shape, and we'll do this guy, right? And there you go, you got, now we don't need to do that. There's actually a nice built-in feature, and you don't need to build a path. Okay, so let's go back into our 3D object. Now this does not have the same features as the tapering. So if you're just making cords, cables, and stuff like that, it works really fast, okay? So select your object, and then in your line, there is a rendering tab. If you open up this tab, you can pick enable in viewport and enable in render, okay? And it puts an automatic cylindrical loft on the object. Now it's not perfect, but it is a great start. And then you can monkey with the thickness and how many segments and how many sides, as well as the interpolation. Interpolation is how many basically height segments you have between each vertice or vertex. Okay, so if I up this, it starts looking real soft, right? That looks real soft. But if I bring it back down, man, I could start seeing the edges, right? Because there's not as many height segments. Now, if we turn on edge faces again, you can see that a little bit better. We could cut down the amount of sides if we really wanted to. Where's that guy? Sides, here we go. You could make it triangular if you bring it all the way down. 3 is the minimum. And you could also make it, this is, if I remember right, this is the one shape. We can actually change it to rectangular. There we go. So now you have boxy. You can be boxy instead of rectangular. And yes, you can change the length and the height. So like that. Maybe you want it, maybe you're making a racetrack. I don't know what you're doing. And then obviously the other dimension too, right? But the further you go, obviously you can see it's kind of cutting into itself there. It's not looking so great. But you could, I don't know, write names, do whatever you want. As long as you have just a line segment. So I think that covers the basis of what I want to talk about with this aspect of spline modeling. You can turn this back off, and you can modify these points, right? We can go back into make it a Bezier handle instead if you don't want to make sure you have your move tool selected. If you don't want to make it a big like a point, you could change it like that. You can always up these, like I said, the what was it? The steps. So it doesn't look so terrible. Now it looks a little bit more like an actual cable of sorts. Same thing with this guy. maybe make it back to radial. And you can, there are so many functionalities or functions to do here to either divide points, chamfer them, duplicate them, add them. Maybe, yeah, let's just do a fillet. Fillet just splits. Click and drag. So now you got two. Chamfer, we'll just put a straight line in between. Just like that. Let's see. Oh, of course you can do multiple. You can do multiple lines in the same object. You can delete. You can weld them together if you've got something that needs to be circular. Like we did this the other day. Let's say we actually just want to close this guy. Oops. I'll just bring this guy over here. Let's pretend this is what we want. Select those both. Make sure the radius for your weld is big enough, and then bink. Now it's closed. But of course, this is a dumb object, and we really don't want that. It's just an example. I would tell you to mess around. Figure out how some of these things work for yourself. Again, I'll be back to explain more, but splines are very powerful. It's the base object, and you can create so many more objects with those base objects. So I'm going to cut back into my full face so you can see my beautiful face one more time. Yeah, so next time, I don't even know why I'm showing my face. You don't want to see that. You want to see this thing. So next time, I think I'm just going to go back with the object I was creating, the Warhammer object. It was the Warhammer bird, I don't know, the Empire, whatever it's called. I don't know Warhammer stuff. I just know it looks awesome, and I want to be a part of it. I want my own space armor, because it's awesome. So yeah, I'm going to get back to that next time. Hopefully, this was helpful. Come back soon. Again, this is my cartoons are under Barbaric Melons, and I just got a big update for the actual models themselves, so I can puppet them even better. I'm very excited. Or just come back to Barbaric Melons Live if you want to see more tutorials. If not, don't ever come back. I don't ever want to see you again. I'm kidding. Come back anytime. Hope this was helpful. Remember, Splines, pretty awesome. 3D Studio Max. That's where it's at, kids. I know it costs money, but works really well. Anywho, talk to you later. Bye.